The chamber was quiet, too quiet for a gathering of this magnitude. Dozens of alien representatives sat around a crescent-shaped table made of luminous crystal, their expressions tense, unreadable, or artificially composed. The stars outside shimmer beyond the transparent dome of the spire of Accord, 1,000 light years from Sol. For over 2 centuries, the humans had been silent, forgotten by some, feared and mythed by others. But now they had spoken again. Counselor Giron of the Silarathi fold clicked his mandibles nervously, shifting in his hover pod. "The message is genuine," he said. His voice trembled with undertones of pheromone-triggered fear. "The origin point is unmistakably Sol. Earth. No one has lived there for over 200 cycles," murmured Prelevess of the Amnari Covenant, her golden tendrils coiling tighter around her translation orb. "What remains is ash and myth." A holographic cube rotated at the center of the chamber. On each of its 6 faces, the same signal pulsed in rhythmic silence. A simple phrase in ancient standard Galactica burned into their neural interfaces the moment it arrived. "We remember our vow. We return with purpose. Stand ready." Counselor Giron leaned forward, voice low. "You all remember the promise." Some averted their eyes. Others narrowed theirs. But none could deny it. 2 centuries ago, the humans were among the youngest spacefaring civilizations, reckless and painfully idealistic. When the Phyrexian Dominion raised Earth's surface in a punitive demonstration of power, allegedly to maintain galactic order, no one intervened. Earth's defense grid folded in days. Cities vaporized, oceans boiled, 1 billion lives extinguished. In the ruins of orbit, as humanity's last ambassador clung to a fractured diplomatic pod, she transmitted a single statement to the galactic net. She was bloodied, calm, her eyes shining with something that made even the Phyrexians hesitate. "We will not rage. We will not beg. We will evolve. And one day, when the stars dim and you grow arrogant in peace, we will return, not for vengeance, but for the reckoning owed." The transmission became legend. Some said it was bravado. Others believed it was prophecy. But as decades turned to centuries and humanity remained conspicuously absent from all diplomatic, military, and cultural registers, the galaxy moved on. They had vanished, without trade, without emissaries, without war. Now they were speaking again. Far above the Council, beyond the periphery of charted space, a probe drifted into position near the remnants of the Kuiper Belt. It had been launched covertly by the Council's exploratory arm, against protocol but driven by fear. What it saw defied natural law. Spanning the void was a structure, a cylinder the size of a small moon, slowly rotating, orbiting nothing. Its surface shimmered with what appeared to be forests, oceans, clouds, living biomes, enclosed in transparent alloy. Cities bloomed like neural clusters, emitting patterns that resembled both language and encryption. And at the structure's core, held in stasis like an ancient relic, was a sphere. Earth, not the real one, but a perfect copy, rebuilt atom by atom. No response to hails, no sign of weapons. And yet, every counselor felt it, dread. In the chamber, Grand Strategist Kalen of the Rith Dominion, a crystalline entity whose thoughts shimmered audibly in shared consciousness, broke the silence. "We must strike before they do." "No," said Counselor Anya Duval. All eyes turned. Human, she was the sole surviving descendant of Earth's diaspora, part of a hybrid lineage that had taken refuge of the Thalos centuries ago. Her inclusion on the Council had always been symbolic. Until now. "You think you understand them," Kalen said with derision, "but they left you behind." "They left everyone behind," she answered, rising, "including me. And I can tell you this. They didn't vanish out of weakness. They withdrew to change. And they warned you." She stepped forward, voice sharp as a blade. "You destroyed their home. They didn't retaliate. They rebuilt it, quietly and possibly, and now they return to ask, have you changed to?" A new light shimmered on the central cube. The signal had updated. A single word this time. Prepare. The word wasn't a threat. Not overtly, but it carried with it a weight the entire chamber could feel, an expectation, a test. Outside, the stars remained still, unaware or uncaring of the storm approaching. But those within the spire understood. Something vast had awakened, and unlike the wars of old, this one would not begin with weapons, but with questions. Counselor Duval stared at the cube, her breath steady. She knew the stories, the simulations, the AI whispers and abandoned black sites. She knew what the old Earth minds had been building in the dark. It was never about vengeance. It was about becoming unrecognizable. And the galaxy, so proud in its order, so sure in its dominance, was about to meet what it had tried so hard to forget. They had fulfilled their promise. Now came the consequence. The probe's feed flickered, then died. High Consul Revec of the More Than Unity stood before the council chamber's vast display, his neural implants pulsing with static interference. The image had lasted only minutes, yet every second had changed the nature of the galaxy. The construct was real. It was moving. From deep space, it had begun a deliberate trajectory, slow and ponderous, yet unstoppable. A megastructure unlike anything ever conceived. It did not transmit, it did not respond, and it carried with it a kind of sentient silence, a calculated absence of diplomacy. "They're not hiding anymore," said Revec, voice taut. "And I don't think they're coming to negotiate." The chamber had emptied of all pretense. No more ceremonial language or species-specific decorum. Even the Tarsky, who communicated solely in chemical tones, had adopted speech codecs to participate more urgently. Counselor Anya Duval stood still as starlight, the blue-green light from the holo display casting a faint glow on her skin. She was human in the genetic sense. Barely. Her ancestors had fled during the Exodus, a fractured tide of survivors carried to the stars by stolen drives and desperate resolve. They had not heard from Earth in over 200 years. Now, something had returned wearing Earth's face, but it bore little resemblance to anything she remembered. "We can't treat them like another rogue species," she said quietly. "What's coming? It isn't just a civilization. It's a statement." Across from her, Diplomat Iro Vela the Osiri Imperium scoffed, his serpentine form coiling in agitation. "A statement? That thing is a weapon. It mimics ecosystems while orbiting nothing. It consumes mass to maintain rotational gravity. It's designed for one purpose, dominion." Anya didn't argue. The truth was heavier than opinion. Images captured from deep-field drones showed impossible detail. Continents with simulated weather, cloud cycles rendered to molecular fidelity, and cityscapes glowing with rhythmic pulses. Too organized to be random, too alien to interpret. Biological life forms had been observed moving within. Some resembled humans. Others did not. None responded. It wasn't just a reconstruction of Earth. It was something greater and darker, a manifesto in motion. As Revec switched the feed to a still-frame close-up, the chamber fell silent again. One image now filled the room. An eye, vast and artificial, carved into the hull of the cylinder. It spanned kilometers and glowed with soft green light, blinking slowly at irregular intervals. There was no function the council could ascribe to it. Yet, as Anya stared into it, something deep in her blood stirred. Not recognition, but resonance. They had changed themselves. That was clear. The last known transmissions from pre-silence Earth had indicated aggressive investments in AI coevolution, nanostructural self-assembly, quantum consciousness seeding. Fringe theory spoke of biointegrated minds spread across networks, not uploaded, but transformed. And now it seemed those theories had been woefully conservative. Revec turned to the others, frustration breaking his diplomatic calm. They've had centuries of silence. Resources, technology, evolution unchecked. They left as mortals. They've come back as something else. We have to assume they're beyond negotiation. Or beyond the need for it, said Anya. She had seen the simulations. The human collective hadn't just adapted. They had abandoned linear development. They had become post-individual. And yet, they still remembered the promise. A sudden spike in the room's telemetry drew everyone's attention. Another message had been received, not through recognized diplomatic bands, but as a neural echo, a direct transmission into the minds of every sentient being within council range. Anya flinched. The words hadn't formed through sound or thought, but memory, etched into the mind as if they had always been there, waiting to surface. We see you. We have not forgotten. Stand in truth or stand aside. There was no origin signature. The signal simply existed, pure and absolute. Irovel recoiled. That's telepathic architecture. Illegal under Council Accord. Not if they're no longer bound by the Accord, said Rivek. In a control station orbiting the desolate moon of Theros, the lead scientist of telemetry arrays stared at the playback loop, stunned. The message, analyzed and reconstructed, contained more than words. It contained DNA signatures, old Earth myth fragments, visual memories from species that never encountered humanity directly. It was not just a message. It was a mirror. They're not speaking to us, the scientist whispered into the feed. They're reflecting us back. Back in the chamber, Anya felt the first hint of fear creep into her composure. Not for herself, but for what it meant, for what the galaxy had become in humanity's absence. Prosperous, yes, united, occasionally, but also forgetful, arrogant, unrepentant. The cylinder's trajectory continued. It was not heading for any planet, not a station. It was charting a spiral across star systems, as if drawing a symbol only the humans could understand, or a path others were meant to follow. I believe they're testing us, Anya said, but not through violence, through perspective. Rivek looked at her sharply. Explain. They could destroy us if they wished. You saw the drone, dismantled mid-observation, by means we don't even have names for. But they haven't attacked. They haven't even claimed territory. They're watching, measuring. Irovel hissed, frustrated. You're suggesting we wait for judgment? I'm suggesting we recognize it's already happening. The room sat in tension, suspended on the blade between fear and curiosity. Outside the spire, the stars remained indifferent. But now, one moved among them with intent. The final still image appeared on the central display, without warning. A transmission from the edge of the Cythery expanse, an old Phyrexian outpost long abandoned. In the frame, a towering obelisk of obsidian, planted firmly in the dust. No structures nearby, no energy signatures. On its surface, a single line of text in 100 languages. We remember the fire. Do you remember why you lit it? Rivek stared, silent. Anya, too, had no words. Only one truth burned in her chest. This was not retaliation. It was the beginning of an answer. The darkness above Aurelian Station stretched endlessly, broken only by the gleam of the approaching construct. It had now passed within the outermost sensor range of Council space, its trajectory curving precisely, not toward seat of power or population, but toward the void between. Deliberate avoidance, not aggression. And yet, every system it skirted went silent, not by force, but by overwhelming proximity. Communication ceased. Satellites failed. Minds touched by the ancient human signal reported dreams. Visions of Earth as it never was. Commander Elon Dresk watched from the observation deck, hands clasped behind his back. The crew kept their distance. He was no longer just a soldier, not since the Council assigned him as liaison to Anya Duval. That made him a symbol. A protector, or, as some whispered, a sacrifice. Anya stood beside him, silent, watching construct draw patterns in the stars. Her eyes were fixed, but her mind was moving faster than any sensor array. Every message, every silent orbit, every obelisk planted across dead worlds. She was trying to understand their logic. They're not just showing us who they become, she said finally. They're showing us who we might have been, if we had chosen differently. Elon glanced at her. You think this is about guilt? No, it's about memory. She turned toward him, her expression drawn tight. There's something deeper in their silence. Not a threat, not mercy, just witness. They want us to see. Elon exhaled slowly. What happens when we do? The question lingered. Far below them, the spire of Accord was in chaos. Emergency sessions turned bitter. Accusations flew. Alliances strained. The Phyrexian delegation, the very architect of Earth's destruction centuries ago, had gone silent. Some said they were building. Others said they were preparing to flee. No one believed they would apologize. One of the outer listening posts, Site Theta 9, had picked up a new transmission. Unlike the previous ones, it was directed, not to the Council, but to a specific archive, a vault of old data buried beneath the ice crust of Nemos, a planet long forgotten after its core cooled and its atmosphere drifted into space. Only one thing of significance remained on Nemos: the last recorded diplomatic log of Ambassador Celia Rain, Earth's final envoy before the fall. The message unlocked a file no one had seen in over 2 centuries. Anya and Elon stood in the vault as the playback started. The room was cold, the kind of cold only a dead world knows. Flickering into existence was a hologram of Celia Rain, her image grainy, her face calm. "They will not listen," she said softly. "They believe strength is the only voice that carries across stars. But we know the truth. Survival isn't power. It's meaning. We will not destroy to be heard. We will become the message." The log ended. A moment later, the vault itself came alive. Hidden mechanisms hummed. Nanite clusters reformed old circuits. From the walls, symbols emerged, etched in Earth's earliest languages, layered with mathematical precision. It was a code, a map, but it did not lead to a weapon. It led to the stars beyond the galactic rim. "They planned this," Elon said, stunned. Even then, Anya nodded. They weren't looking to return. They were looking to transcend. The construct trajectory had shifted slightly, enough to register on Council tracking systems. It now matched the exact route traced in the Nemos archive, not toward any civilization, but outward, beyond. They had come not to conquer, not to negotiate, but to open a path. And yet, that path required acknowledgement. Back at the Spire, Council members faced a dilemma never before confronted in galactic history. Do they respond? Do they follow? Or do they pretend this never happened and hope the construct simply passes by? Some argue for confrontation, an expression of power, however futile. Others for silence. But a small coalition led by Duval proposed something far stranger. "We send no ships," she said. "No weapons, just the truth." She stood alone before the Council's inner chamber, her voice clear. "They remember what we did, but they didn't come to punish us. They came to see if we learned. We must show them something no archive or drone or probe ever could, that we understand the gravity of our past." A long pause followed. Then, slowly, one by one, delegates lowered their objections. Not out of unity, but exhaustion, perhaps even awe. Duval returned to Varelian Station and entered the transmission chamber herself. She brought no guards, no advisors. The signal was old Earth standard, simple audio, a few embedded neural resonance markers. No threats, no explanations. "This is Anya Duval, descendant of Earth, witness of your silence. I have no authority but my name, no power but my voice. I speak not for the Council, but for myself." She paused. The chamber lights dimmed to match her pulse. "I remember what they did to us. I remember what we became. And I see what you've built, not as a warning, but as an invitation. I don't ask for forgiveness. I offer recognition. You changed. So can we." She ended the transmission. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, from the construct, a soft pulse of light rippled outward, visible even to the naked eye. No response. No words. Just light. Elon stood at her side again. "Do you think they heard you?" She didn't smile, but her voice was steady. "I think they always have." The construct began to accelerate, not toward the Council, not toward the core worlds, but toward the edge of known space. A passage carved not in fire, but in silence. Behind it, it left no damage, only monuments, each etched with a question. The third now stood in orbit over Varelian. "What will you become when no one is watching?" Anya stared up at it. The answer, she knew, had only just begun to form. The construct vanished beyond the galactic rim 3 days later. No warning, no farewell, just a final pulse of light, cascading through space like the echo of a great bell struck in vacuum. Its resonance felt more than heard. Worlds that had once trembled in anticipation fell back into uneasy silence. Trade resumed. Debates flickered to life. But something fundamental had shifted, subtle, irrevocable. At Verelian Station, Anya Duval stood alone in the observatory's darkened dome, watching the stars reclaim the void the construct had filled. It was as though the galaxy had exhaled. But the breath left behind a question, one that vibrated through the architecture of her mind, impossible to dismiss. What if humanity had not left to escape extinction, but to evolve beyond it? Commander Elon Dresp joined her in silence. He didn't speak right away. They had run out of theories, out of explanations. What remained was reflection and choice. "I've been reading the Rain logs again," he said finally. She didn't believe in redemption, not in the traditional sense. She believed in recursion, that humanity would repeat itself, unless it learned to step outside the pattern. Anya's gaze didn't shift. The construct was proof that they did. Elon folded his arms. "Then the question is, can we?" Across the council worlds, monuments remained. Not just obelisks, but entire environments, micro-ecosystems seeded by the construct's passage. A moon in the Jolari belt now grew Earth flora from forgotten genomes. A gas giant's upper atmosphere bore drifting structures, perfectly balanced on jet streams. Cities no species could inhabit, but all could witness. And in the ruins of Koresh, where the Threxians had once launched the first strike against Earth, a great sculpture now stood. 2 hands, one artificial, one organic. Locked in neither war nor embrace, just contact. The galaxy, it seemed, had been left with homework. Not everyone welcomed the legacy. Pirate coalitions saw opportunity in the Council's hesitation. Fringe cults declared the humans gods, while others labeled them tyrants masquerading as prophets. The Threxian delegation collapsed under the weight of internal division, half seeking atonement, the other vowing preemptive defense against a return. But the construct had not promised return. It had left direction. Anya stood before the council again, this time by invitation, not defiance. No longer merely a diplomat, she had become something rarer, a translator of intent. They asked her what came next. She told them the truth. Nothing will come next unless we choose it. She proposed a journey, not one of conquest, nor even diplomacy, but observation. A fleet, small, unarmed, multinational, equipped to follow the route mapped in the Nemos archives. To learn, to listen, to find what humanity had become at the edge of the stars. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed. Vessel 0X. Genesis departed 5 weeks later, its core built from salvaged Earth materials and its drive guided by algorithms extracted from the construct's pulse emissions. Anya and Elon boarded as co-leads, not as symbols, but as volunteers. Aboard with them, scientists, historians, linguists, and a single Phyrexian philosopher, chosen by open petition. Before departure, Anya returned once more to the site of the Verelian obelisk. Its surface had changed. The question had shifted. Now it read, "Are you still becoming?" She reached out, fingers brushing the cold stone. No light flared. No message echoed. Yet in the quiet, she felt something move, not outside, but within. In the Genesis ship's command chamber, Elon waited by the observation panel. The crew had assembled, systems checked. The path was clear. Anya entered, nodding once. He spoke the final log entry before launch. Council Directive 7. We follow not to find, but to understand. We seek not what they are, but what we may become. Genesis engaged its drives. The stars bent slightly, blue shifting into a long thread of light as the vessel accelerated beyond standard charted space. Behind them, the council world shimmered with new introspection. Ahead, the unknown unraveled like a great question. Anya sat by the forward display, watching the construct's route populate with unfolding data. Planets previously thought barren now lit with strange signatures. Not messages, not beacons, just presence, subtle anomalies, gravitational whispers, light curves. They were not alone, but the loneliness had never been about numbers. It had been about recognition. Hours into the journey, the Genesis received its first ping, not a transmission. A fluctuation, spatial, temporal, coordinated. timed perfectly to their emergence from drive space near an unmarked system. From it, a signal radiated, composed of a single line, modulated through every known language. You remembered. Elon turned to Anya, the words washing over them like warm static. "Do we respond?" he asked. She looked at him, the faintest trace of a smile breaking her usual stillness.